He graduated from George Washington University, is married, and has 3 daughters. Let's give a warm Silicon Valley welcome to Steve Greenhut.
Thanks for having me. Hearing Mimi talk before about eminent domain and regulatory takings makes me want to give a talk about my first book. Tell you a few things about new urbanism and smart growth, and it's just one of the many issues that you seem to have problems with up here. I moved up from Orange County to the Sacramento area. I'm in El Dorado County now. Tom McClintock is my congressman. And they're all people's republics up here. It's a lovely part of the country, but it certainly would send a signal everywhere if we could get some reform up here in the Bay Area, and I don't see why we can't. Of course, I'm going to talk about a subject on which Republicans helped create the problem also, which is one of the reasons I wrote the book, is writing in a Republican county, covering government, and a board of supervisors that's 5-0 Republican, all of whom claim that they're rock-solid conservatives, retroactively increasing pensions twice over the 10 years that I was covering, and city councils throughout the region that's in Orange County, and everyone still in Orange County, not everyone, but Republicans still dominate, and watching Republicans increase pensions. What I like to say is, this is a problem that that it's really a bipartisan problem, and it's a huge mess. I mean, that's why my book is so subtly titled Plunder. It is a bit of plundering that's going on. I really want to extend a thanks to Robert Rizzo, from the former city manager. I'm sure you've all seen the news stories. The city of Bell, the rather rotund, obscene man who got an $800,000 salary to be a city manager, and his pension is valued at $30 million, which is quite amazing. And the thing that I found funniest, if you can find humor in any of this, is that he got 28 weeks a year of vacation time. And, you subtract the many holidays that the government workers get, and I know now, having moved to Sacramento, being a government town, and I love Fridays, because the freeways are pretty clear. And with furlough Fridays, that means Thursdays the freeways are pretty clear too, because of course they're taking, the government employees are taking that extra day off. So anyway, the guy 28 weeks a year, so just figure out how much money he was making. And the great thing, and this just typifies the entitlement mentality you find among certain classes of government workers, is he didn't see anything wrong with it. He said he could easily get that kind of money in the private sector. Oh, really? I'd love to see that. And having covered many city councils and boards of supervisors, county government, as a newspaperman, every government employee, every city manager especially, sees himself as the equivalent of running a Fortune 500 company. They all see themselves as that. Of course, none of them actually leave those city posts and get jobs in Fortune 500 companies, certainly not as CEOs, maybe in the mailroom. But they often, the whole thing about Robert Rizzo is he basically, for those who thought my premise of my book, Plunder, was overstated, I bring you Robert Rizzo. And if you look closely, you'll see that although what went on in the city of Bell, which I don't need to rehash because it's been in the national news, but that was just an extreme of what's going on at every level, up and down, from every city. I mean, in Orange County, I draw on Orange County a lot because I covered Orange County for about a dozen years, so I know the data better than I do, but it's no different anywhere in the state. The little cities, the city managers are making $400,000 a year. That's plus the pension, plus the benefits. And what I can't understand is, you go into any government building, which I go into a lot. I work at this for Pacific Research, and I've started something called Cal Watchdog, and I just encourage you to check it out. CALWatchdog.com, and it's investigative journalism and news reporting. Everything's about page views, so it doesn't cost anything. We just encourage people to look at the stories that we have and check it out. But I remember when I moved up to Sacramento, and I go into a government building, and it's a post office actually near my office, and you have 4 people standing there by the x-ray machine. That's to go into the post office. I mean, usually I think you need the x-ray machine for the postal workers, but that's another issue. And you go in there, and you get the surly postal service guy, and you know what it's like. You've all been to these things. And you know, I know the salaries they're earning. I know the kind of pension benefits. They got a pretty good deal. I mean, they skin the hog, and they've got a pretty good deal. And you go down the street, and some guy who's an immigrant to the country, who's running a grocery store. I just give him 99 cents for a Arizona iced tea. He's happy as could be, right? He's probably working 14-hour days and probably brings home, you know, not very much money, right? So that's the private sector compared to the public sector. So I'm increasingly frustrated about what I saw going on. One radio host said listening to me made him want to scream and throw things. I thought he said he had talked to my wife, but that's not the case. And another reader said that my book made him want to poke out his eyes with hot pokers, and those are a couple of the favorable reviews that I've gotten. And the problem is that the truth is very painful, and I'm dealing mostly in facts about the size of the salaries. And it's more than the salaries, though, and it's depressing. The whole topic's depressing, and I swear to my hosts whenever I speak that I'm going to try to be uplifting, even though it's not totally in my nature, as you probably surprised to hear. But what's going on is massive plunder, okay? And it's not just the amount of money; it's this degraded public services. I mean, you drive around California. I don't have to tell you, I mean, how bad the roads are and how poor the public schools are and all of the many inadequate public services we have, even as we're spending more and more money. We've also created an arrogant elite. I mean, it's true. We have this group of people that are not public servants anymore. We serve them. They're our masters, and that's the truth. Now, and if you think this is just cheap shots at all government employees, there are probably some of you who are retired employees. My mom is retired near Palm Springs on my dad's New Jersey Teachers Association salary, and my dad was a dedicated teacher. I know a lot of good people who work in public service. Well, it's not public service in my mind, but in the government field. A lot of the people who work there believe they're doing the best they can, but it's a system that we've created that's not a good system. I was on the John Stossel show, and we were talking about how to get rid of ill-performing public school teachers. And I had referred to a Los Angeles Times had done a phenomenal series on trying to fire how LAUSD gets rid of not just its bad teachers. LA Unified, their officials said they cannot even begin to try to fire incompetent teachers. So just get your mind around that for a minute. But these are teachers who are credibly accused of abusing children, abusing drugs, of doing all sorts of heinous things in the classroom. And it takes 10 to 12 years to get rid of them. They get put in rubber rooms where they collect their full pay and benefits. So this public sector unionization is creating this sort of lack of accountability that is destroying our public services. So he held up a chart with the little boxes and arrows showing on what you would have to do to get rid of a bad teacher in the LA Unified School District. And it's no different, really, any other school district in the state. And we follow the arrows and go around and around, and we get down to the bottom of the sheet of paper, and at that point, the audience is laughing. But then, the kicker is he drops down and 4 other sheets of paper fall. So, in other words, it's impossible to do that. Now, those of you who are in the private sector, run businesses, now, what would your business be like if you couldn't even think about firing the incompetent employees? How about the ones that are abusing customers or fellow workers? And it could take you 8 to 10 years and however many millions of dollars in legal fees. What kind of service or product would you provide? Well, the answer would be not a very good one. That's just common sense. Now, because of unionization, that's the kind of product we're providing in our public school system. And it's a very depressing thing. But I'm trying to be uplifting today, so I'm going to get to the good news. There is good news. Thanks to people like Robert Bell, thanks to Stossel, thanks to some of the news stories that are getting out, and they are getting out. A friend of mine runs something called the Pension Tsunami website.